Hey everyone, welcome to Time to Thrive. This is your host, Bethany Meadows, and today our guest is Nicky Billou, an international best-selling author, corporate speaker, and co-founder of eCircle Academy, a mastermind educational program for coaches, consultants, corporate trainers, realtors, and pretty much any other service-based entrepreneur. Nicky is also the host of the #1 podcast on thought leadership called The Thought Leader Revolution. He has interviewed over 300 of the world's top thought leaders, including some of my favorites, Seth Godin, John Maxwell, Kathy Ireland, Barbara Corcoran, and lots more. Welcome to Time to Thrive, Nicky.
Bethany, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm always excited when I have a fellow Canadian on the show.
Oh, there you go.
I'm living in the South, in Alabama, but I end up with lots of Canadian guests. So always nice to have a fellow Canadian on the show.
Thank you. Always great to be here with you.
So as always, I'm going to have you pick a number between 1 to 5, and we're going to kick off the show with a truly random question. So you have 1. Okay. Whom do you secretly envy?
Whom do I secretly envy? Elon Musk, man.
Really? Okay. So I noticed that in one of your books, which you have 3, and I noticed in one of your books that you quoted Elon Musk.
Yeah. So Elon's a man who's made big things happen in his life, and I got to tell you, I envy that.
Well, and I like how quirky he is. Like, he's just his own man. He just does.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care.
He just bought Twitter. Tomorrow the sale closes. He went to Twitter headquarters, and man, the media folks had a meltdown over that. So I love that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to make those folks have a meltdown.
Anytime the media is melting down, it's probably something good.
Popcorn time, baby.
Exactly right. Well, tell me a little bit about your backstory. I mean, here in the South, we always want to know, not just what you do, but who you are, where you came from, who your people are. That
absolutely. So
yeah.
I actually have some ties to the South. My aunt married a fella from the Atlanta area, so I've got cousins in Georgia. Spent quite a bit of time there. I love the South. It's awesome. But my backstory, it's a great question. I'm originally an immigrant from the Middle East. I'm actually a Christian from Iran. And when I was a young boy, the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran. And my late father, God rest his soul, he could see this was not going to be a great place for him to raise his Christian family anymore. So he hustled us out of there, and eventually we settled in Toronto. And I thank God every day for my father's prescience. I don't know if you've been following the news about what's going on in Iran in the last few weeks, but a young woman by the name of Mahsa Amini was beaten to death, just 22 years old, for the crime, quote unquote, of being outdoors with her hair partially uncovered. Iranian law does not allow women to go outside uncovered. You think about this. She was beaten to death, and her death sparked a series of protests. And teenage girls and young women have been going out and leading these protests, and they've been shot and beaten and killed, 200 of them leading these protests. This is just women fighting for basic human rights, not even just women's rights, human rights, the right to be able to go outside and dress the way you want to dress. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know it's very fashionable in the West among certain circles to say, oh my God, Canada, America, the West, so oppressive, so racist, so sexist. You know what I have to say to that?
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. Go to Iran. Go to the other countries in the Middle East. This is the most tolerant, incredible place on earth. We are free. And those people that are saying that are either ignorant or they're malicious because they're trying to turn us against ourselves and shut us up from standing up for freedom. We all need to push back hard against these folks and stand up for the incredible freedoms that we get to have in countries like America and Canada. And my father, he was an entrepreneur. He's the greatest man I know. He was an uplifter. If you needed a job, Bethany, he'd find you a job. If you were looking to start a business, he'd set you up in business. Even if you were going to compete with him, he didn't care about that. He just wanted to help people. And if you worked for him and you were looking to buy a car, a house, or an apartment, and you didn't have enough money, dad would help you buy that car, that house, that apartment. And you might think to yourself, what? Who does that? Well, the late, great Napoleon Billou, he did that. And you might think, well, why? Well, first of all, he was a Christian. He believed he'd been blessed by God, and it was his duty as a Christian man to share those blessings with others. Secondly, he did it because he could. He had the wherewithal. And so I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be just like that. He was my hero, right? And I eventually became an entrepreneur. And here's what I noticed. Bethany, there's so many good men and women out there. They're entrepreneurs. They want to do well for their family. They want to do well for their clients. They want to make the world a better place. They want to be somebody great. But they back down. They're scared. They don't want to come across as pushy, salesy, or like they reek of commission breath. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they don't go after business they should go after. And they suffer because they don't get that business. But the person they were going to help potentially suffers because they don't get the help of a caring human being. And some charlatan marketer comes in, gets that business, and doesn't care whether they deliver for the client at all. And that's bad because it lowers the sum total of goodness in the world. It hurts that entrepreneur. It hurts their potential client. It even hurts that charlatan marketer because karma is a bitch. It's going to come back and bite them in the ass eventually, you know? And so I saw this and I thought, wow, what if we could help these good people look at sales differently? What if instead of selling, they could look at it as serving? Nobody wants to be sold. Bethany, you don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold. But
Right.
everybody wants to be served by a good, caring human being. And you got to remember, business is not a numbers game. It's a people game.
That's
that person
right.
sitting in front of you, that's someone's daughter. That's someone's son. That's someone's wife. That's someone's husband. That's someone's sister. That's someone's brother. That is somebody who is a hero to someone else. That's somebody who's been disappointed by life and maybe even disappointed by someone just like you who promised them the moon and delivered nothing. So you got to first and foremost lead from the heart and lead from caring. And if that's who you are and that's what you do, that is the first step toward massive success as an entrepreneur.
Well, you made some great points there, and it actually leads into my next question because, you know, I've been in marketing over 30 years now, and I look back on how things have changed, right? We did a lot of direct mail 30 years ago. The bigger average, companies did like the TV, the general kind of brand advertising. Then we moved into telemarketing, and then people got tired of that. And then we moved into, the digital world, and that has just changed the game, right? And in the digital world now, the marketplace is more crowded, it's noisy. And so you look at a small business owner really just trying to get their message out to their audience. It's tough, right? And we've gone, I think, full circle. And I think we're coming back from transactional type marketing into relational marketing, which you had just touched on a minute ago. And I think that's where thought leadership comes into play, right? Instead of promoting our products and services, what we're really promoting is our credibility, our authority, our a desire to serve, and building that affinity with our market and having them come to us rather than us beating them over the head with a stick to buy from us. You are a thought leadership expert. It's one of the things that you're really passionate about. So talk to me about thought leadership and why it's so important for even small business owners to embrace this idea of being a thought leader.
That is super, super great. So I'm going to draw a distinction between a thought leader and an expert. And I'm going to draw on the work of two men. One is Matt Church. He says, an expert's someone who knows something, but a thought leader is someone who's known for knowing something. Experts are a dime a dozen. Thought leaders are rare and valuable, right? And then David Meerman Scott said, an expert's like a cover band, right? Cover band. But a thought leader plays original music.
Ooh, okay. I love the analogy. I'm going to use that. You have a book actually called The Thought Leader's Journey. And you have a chapter
Yeah.
about being known for solving one problem better than anyone else. Now, I'll tell you the one thing that I've struggled with over the years and working with business owners is they really hesitate to be too targeted in their approach because they're fearful that they're going to miss a customer, miss an opportunity because they're being too nichey, right? And so that's one of the things you talk about is, why it's so important to go narrow rather than broad. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So many people suffer from what we call the Mayo message, right? What do you do? I'm in real estate. I'm a mortgage broker. I'm a coach. I help people deal with overwhelm. That's nice. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They don't care about what you do. They care about how what you do helps them, right? Your message has got to be tight and dialed in. You can't be a thought leader if your message isn't tight and dialed in. You can't be known for something if there isn't something that you're trying to be known for, if you think about it, right? So I'll tell you a story. I had a client. He's a young man when he came to see me. And he was a good dude, Bethany. You know what I'm talking about? 25 years old. He was one of these people, you'd want, like, if you had a daughter, you'd want your daughter to bring this guy home. You know what I mean? This was a guy you'd root for to win. He just wanted to help people. He just was a good dude, right?
Right.
And he came to see me because he was not succeeding. He had 7 clients. He made $1,200 a month in Toronto. You know how expensive Toronto is. That's not enough to live on, right? Yeah. And personal fitness trainer. So he came to me and I said, okay, buddy, tell me. So what do you do? Who do you do it for? Oh, listen, I can help anybody. Yeah, I'm in fitness. I can help them lose weight. I can help them get strong. I can help anybody. No, buddy. Who do you help? He goes, no, really, I can help anybody. Anybody with a wallet and a pulse? Ha ha ha, Nicky, that's funny. That's funny. I guess so. And I go, no, that's not going to work. You got to narrow your focus, narrow your niche. He goes, okay. You know what? I think I'm going to go work with doctors. My dad's a doctor. I love my dad. My dad's a doctor. And they make so much money. Not so good a message. My dad's a doctor and doctors make money. Come work with me. No, it didn't work out so good. And then I go, listen, you need a different, narrower target maybe. He goes, okay, narrower target. Okay. Cardiologist. I work with cardiologists. They make more money than doctors. That's the message. They make more money than doctors. Didn't work out so good. Then all of a sudden, through serendipity, God Almighty gave him inspiration. He started working with this man who was a Paralympic athlete. He had a missing leg since he was a boy in a childhood accident. He was an Afro-Cuban fella, and he had a really cool name, Bethany. His name was Papito Wilson. Now, Papito didn't like it if you didn't pronounce his name properly, so you couldn't go say Papito Wilson. You'd have to say Papito Wilson. So the two of them worked together. They did great work. He got Papito strong, and he came to me and he goes, Nicky, we're doing good work. I got Papito strong. I think I want to work with, people with missing limbs. I go, okay, that sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
In 6 weeks, he signed up 400 clients. 6 weeks, 400 clients as a personal fitness trainer. He could no longer do one-on-one training. He had to create group programs for people. And he added not 1 0, but 2 zeros to the end of his monthly income. From $1,300 to over $100,000 in a single month. That's how much money he was able to make as a result of this. Now, you might go, well, why? How? He became known as the go-to guy for working with people with missing limbs. You think about it. And people with missing limbs, other trainers were like, oh, they don't have limbs. They can't work out. He's like, yes, you can work out. You can work out just as well as anybody else. I'm going to train you. I'll make you strong. That was a powerful message. Imagine, put yourself in the shoes of someone with a missing limb, Bethany. They're probably like wishing they had all their limbs, at some level. They probably feel like, hey, they're not able to do everything an able-bodied person can do, and they're somehow less than maybe. I'm not saying all of them feel this way, but I'm saying some of them probably do. A lot of them probably do. And his message to them was, you're just as good, just as strong, just as much of a badass as anybody else. And that message landed. That's what made him a thought leader.
That's awesome. I love that. And you look at the aspects of that. If you're in that situation where you have a missing limb, we actually represented Noah Galloway for a little while, and did some work with him. He ended up on Dancing with the Stars, as you'll recall, and he was missing an arm and a leg. And he used to tell me that when he got back and was rehabbing and was getting back to working out, being in the gym, he would go at 2 a.m. to a 24-hour gym when nobody was there, because he was embarrassed, because he didn't want anybody, people staring at him and things like that. And he had to orchestrate like these special straps and things to wrap around him, because he was missing one arm. He couldn't just work one arm, because then he would have a chest that was out of balance. So he had to work these straps to attach them around the other side so that he could still work his chest and things. So people without limbs know that they need some sort of special innovation, I guess, to
sure.
make it all work. But there's also that mindset aspect that you talked about. And, how powerful was that message that he landed, because he was speaking directly to them. It was relevant. It was emotional. It was powerful.
Yep.
So I love that. You mentioned a little while ago, you kind of mentioned it in passing about a charlatan marketer. Well, I know what you're talking about, but why don't you share what those are and why we should avoid them?
Well, a charlatan is basically a con man, somebody who sells the sizzle but doesn't deliver the steak to go along with it. So you're just biting in the sizzle. Oh, where's that steak I was promised?
Yeah.
Right. These are people who just they're like emotional sociopaths. They don't care if you get the result or you don't. They just want to make money. It's all they care about.
The marketplace is full of that when it comes to trying to help business owners. There's a lot of big promises of, $1,000,000 results with 3 easy steps. And it just doesn't work that way. You've got to be able to put in the work and understand all the foundational strategies and things that go into it. One of the benefits of a good brand, and I'm a brand expert, I've been in marketing and brand for a long time, but one of the benefits of having a good brand is you can charge a premium.
Yeah.
And I love
that about having a good brand.
Yes. and I love the connection that having a premium added to your brand, as it relates and is connected to establishing yourself as a thought leader, right? Because if, as a thought leader, it actually elevates your brand as a business, right? And then that can ultimately result into some premium pricing. So can you talk about that a little bit, and the connection between all of that?
You're awesome, because you're just like setting me up for the points I want to make. So you just like, okay, she figured the message part out. Now the premium. Okay, that's good. So here's the deal. Okay. One of the biggest challenges that people in business have is they undervalue themselves.
That's right.
They undervalue themselves. Now, there are only 2 reasons why you undervalue yourself and you don't charge accordingly. Number one is you actually don't believe that what you have is worth it, right? Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, that's either a mindset issue, which we can help you with, or really you don't have the skills, which, we got to help you develop the skills, and that may take time. But the second reason is they believe what they have is worth it. They're just scared that no one will pay. They're just scared no one's going to pay.
Yeah.
And the reason is all of their attention is on themselves. Oh my God, are they going to like me? Are they going to want to pay? But this is Nicky Billou's proprietary 7-figure 3P solution. So I'm going to share the 3 Ps with you. You ready?
All right, I'm ready. I'm going to write them down.
Okay. Business is about solving acute problems. P number 1.
Yes.
For wonderful people. P number 2. For wonderful profit. P number 3. Let me repeat that. Business is about solving acute problems for wonderful people for wonderful profit. That's all. It's nothing else. When the attention's on you, you undercharge. When the attention is on them, you don't, because you understand their pain. You understand what that's costing them, and you'll charge appropriately. Now, it's not as simple as me telling you this and all of a sudden your problem solved, because you're not going to do that. You're going to put the attention back on yourself. It's one of the things we teach, but that's the truth. Now, let me tell you another story. We had this fella who was a client of ours. He was from Manhattan, and he had an acupuncture clinic in Manhattan. This dude He did decently. He did $150,000 a year, but in Manhattan, that's nothing, man. That money just came and went. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he said to me, Nicky, I need to make more money. How much do you want to make? I want to make 7 figures. I'm like, okay. Show me your business model. He showed me his business model. He had a good solution for an acute problem, right? And the problem was lack of health, right? Like acupuncture solves health issues. And he worked with wonderful people. In fact, he had incredible clients. Robert De Niro was a client of his, right? So he had big name celebrities, but he had a problem. His problem was he undercharged. And I looked at it and I go, dude, you don't charge enough. I mean, these guys are, these are big people. They expect to pay a certain way. And he goes, okay. I think he thought I was going to say, raise your prices 10% or something like that, He said, how much should I raise my prices by? And I said, oh, you need to 20-fold your prices. And he went,
wow.
And I'm the dude, man, relax. Stop hyperventilating. I can't do that. I can't do it. I can't do it. No one's going to. This isn't about you. You need to charge it so they show up and they get the benefit. It's not about you. It's about them. Mm-hmm. This isn't price gouging. Price gouging's evil. This is charging so they show up. He wouldn't 20-fold it, but he did 7-fold his prices. Bethany, because he listened to us and he 7-folded his prices, he 20-folded the amount of business he got. Guys like Robert De Niro brought him people because, oh my God, look, this is the best acupuncturist in New York. Look at what he charges.
Right.
He went to 1.2 million in less than 4 months.
Well, there's this thing too called expectation bias, right? And if we buy something and it doesn't cost very much, our expectation of what that thing's going to do for us is very low because we're not paying hardly anything for it.
Exactly.
But if we're paying a premium for that thing, our expectation that is a quality thing that has value because we're paying for it. So you can actually create these expectations with what you charge.
That's brilliant because I'd never heard that before. Expectation bias. Okay. So I'm going to write that down. Expectation bias. That's really, really good.
We actually had a pricing expert come on the show a couple episodes ago, and he talked about that as part of your pricing strategy is you can kind of create this expectation bias. So I wish I could take credit for being that brilliant, but I'll give him the credit.
I'm going to demonstrate this for you. So we help this guy make a lot of money and, we charge appropriately. I'm a knife collector. I have over 100 knives. This is one of my knives. This knife cost me $40. It's a lovely knife. It's very sharp. It cuts, it's on my desk. You know what I mean? I just kind of toss it here. Boom. Now I'm going to show you another knife that's in my collection. Okay. This knife is a custom-made knife. A knife maker in Alberta made this for me. The handle is mammoth tooth. The bolsters here is titanium Damascus. And this is a type of Damascus steel, the blade, called Virus Damascus. It took him 3 months to make this for me.
Wow.
This cost almost 100 times as much as that other knife cost. I take care of it at a very different level than I take care of that. This always goes inside of my, case for it, right? I put this away. I oil this knife.
Right.
You understand? Like, if someone were to come to see you, Bethany, for marketing help, and let's say they were having problems generating leads, and you sat with them and you said, okay, this is great, tell me about your business, blah, blah, blah. You did the whole thing. You said, okay, you know what? I know how to generate more leads for you. We're going to do this, this, and the other. And this is going to, over a 90-day period, 5-fold the number of leads, qualified leads that you have. And they're going to go, great, Bethany, I'm ready. Let's go. What do you charge? Oh, I charge $500. What? $500? They're going to go per lead, right? No, for my entire service. No, that's not good. Depending on the size of the business and how much revenue you were going to generate for them, it should be $15,000, $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000 that you charge those people for that price, because that's when they'll show up and they'll do the work needed to get the value. At $500, they're not going to care. They'll throw the money at you and forget about it, and they won't get the result.
Right. Right. Well, I can tell you from experience over the years, we have raised our minimum retainer, monthly retainer, to increase the size of the company, which is generally what happens. Just because it's very hard to work with a small business owner who has these huge expectations, but are paying a little bit amount. That's actually, we created Time to Thrive membership as an alternative to that, but we won't get into it here because this is Nikki's time on the show. But one of the things I did want to talk to you about was being a thought leader often requires people to step outside their comfort zone. Yes. And not everybody is comfortable getting on a podcast or doing a video or even writing a blog. How do you help people kind of get past that hesitation and step out and take that journey to becoming a thought leader?
That's a great question. I mean, there are 4 qualities everybody's got to have if they're going to be successful in business. You know what I mean? And if they don't have those qualities, I can't help them. You can't help them. Nobody can help them. Okay. So the first quality is the quality of decisiveness, right? And a person who's decisive, it kills off the alternative. They're going to go into a situation and go, I'm going to be a successful thought leader and I'm going to build a 7-figure business. As an example, they've got to decide that is it. It can't be, let me kick a tire. Let me check it out. I'll try it. It's no, I will do this. So that's the first quality, right? And if you think about it, people who are not decisive don't get anywhere in life. You know the story of Napoleon Hill and how he got his start in writing Think and Grow Rich? Have you heard the story before?
I have not.
So Napoleon Hill used to, early on in his career, be a journalist, and he worked for a publication that sent him to meet the then richest man in the world, Andrew Carnegie. He went to Mr. Carnegie's estate and he interviewed the great man, and the two of them really hit it off. And at the end of their allotted time together, Mr. Carnegie went to him and said, Mr. Hill, how would you like to spend the weekend with me at my estate? We can continue our discussion. Now, Bethany, I don't know about you, but if the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, today came to me and said, Nicky, how'd you like to spend the weekend at my estate and continue our discussion? My answer is yes. My answer is yes. Like, there'd be very, very few things that would have me say no. So, of course, he said yes, right? Anyways, I spent the weekend. They had a wonderful chat. And at the end of it, Andrew Carnegie went to him and said, Mr. Hill, I have a proposition for you. How would you like to spend the next 20 years researching my philosophy of success? I will not give you a stipend. What I will do is give you letters of introduction to the 500 most successful men and women in the United States. What say you? It took Napoleon Hill 31 seconds to make up his mind and say, yes, I'll do it. And the rest is history. He wrote Think and Grow Rich and many other books. He became the godfather of the modern personal and business growth and development movement. Now, many years later, he met Andrew Carnegie one last time before the great man passed. And at that time, Andrew Carnegie congratulated him on all his success and said, Mr. Hill, I need to tell you something. He said, what? He said, you didn't know this, but unbeknownst to you, while I asked you the question of whether you'd like to take me up on my offer, I had a watch under the table with a second hand, and I had given you 60 seconds to make up your mind. 1 minute. Wow. Napoleon Hill was like flabbergasted. He said, I had no idea. He says, I guess it's good I made up my mind quickly. He said, yes, it is. And he said, but why did you ask me to do this and only give me 1 minute to make up my mind? He said, you should answer this question. You should know this now that you've studied my philosophy of success. He said, yes, you're right. You're right. He thought about it for another moment. And he said, well, it's successful people decide quickly. successful people decide quickly. They gather the facts, and they're either a yes or a no. There's this thing that people think saying no is a bad thing. Saying no is one of the most wonderful things you can do. It's good for you, and it's good for the person you're saying no to. What's a terrible thing is to say, let me think about it. Let me get back to you. The energy of your intent is gone. The law of diminishing intent basically states that if you have an intent, you need to move with it. And if you don't, the power of that intent diminishes, and your ability to take that intent and turn it into something great diminishes. So you got to be decisive. Well, secondly, you also need to be committed. You can't be, I'm going to try my business for a while. You've got to be, I'm in it to win it. I'll do whatever it takes. Thirdly, you must be coachable. You have to have experts like Bethany and myself teach you how to do what you need to do. And if you're not coachable, you're not going to win. And then finally, you have to be resourceful. You need to come up with the money, the time, the energy to do this. And there's a distinction between investing in yourself and your business and spending money on frivolous but fun things. So, my knife collection is fun, but there's not an ROI. I mean, technically, yeah, because knives go up in value, and I realize that, but I didn't start my knife collection because I wanted the knives to go up in value. I just like knives. You know what I mean? But Robin Sharma, who used to be a client of mine, once said that if you ever want to double your income in any given year, you should triple your investment in personal and professional development. So if you're not investing in yourself, if you are not taking the courses, hiring the coaches and the mentors and the service providers and attending the conferences, what are you doing? You're not going to win. You know what I mean? And if you want to be a successful thought leader, and if you want to get past whatever hesitations you have, you must embrace these 4 qualities. And if you don't, no one can help you.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is when I started my business, I was just all about, I'm the doer, right? I'm the doer. I'm just get it done, get it done, get it done. And it really wasn't until years later that I really leaned into the mindset value of really understanding what drives us and what holds us back, and getting a good handle on that in yourself, and acknowledging, hey, I have this, irrational fear of whatever. I need to address that and push past it. We kind of talk about, imposter syndrome. If you don't have imposter syndrome, you're probably stuck stagnant in some status quo zone where you're comfortable, because imposter syndrome only happens when you get uncomfortable, and that means you're growing. You can't grow without being uncomfortable. One last thing I wanted to talk about, as we kind of wrap up the episode, is you wrote another book. You've written a number of books, but this one's titled The Power of Connecting.
Yes.
And I really love this idea of connection and building a tribe of support. And so I just wondered if you could share with us what we can do to become more connected, especially in this digital world that we're in, where, now we can stay in our basement and never come out for the light of day, which I don't think is necessarily a great thing. So, how can we be more connected?
Well, I think that the best thing you can do for yourself is to connect to your fellow man and woman. If you're isolated, it's bad for you. We're meant to be social creatures. We really are. So I would get on the phone. I'd call somebody. I would make an appointment to go see them, have a cup of tea with them, go for a workout, go for a run. It's so important to do that.
Yeah.
For me, every single day, I connect with people. I'm doing 3 podcast interviews today. This is my second. I made a new friend in the morning. I've made a new friend with you this afternoon, and in the evening, I want to make one more new friend.
Yeah.
It's so important from my perspective to talk to people. And remember Nicky Billou's proprietary 3P, 7-figure 3P formula, right? People are the middle P. You got to solve problems for people. If you're not talking to people, how are you going to solve any problems for them?
Yeah. I
and
often say too, you never know what little small piece of wisdom is going to change the course of your business. It
you
could
never
be
know.
just that one little thing that opens the door that, creates an epiphany that just changes the course of your business. And you won't ever have the opportunity for those little pieces of wisdom if you're not connecting with people.
You won't. You absolutely won't. And for me, let me just finish this off by telling you one last story.
Okay.
So a few years back, a woman came to us. She had been the country director for Canada for one of the world's largest and oldest personal development firms. And she was very talented at what she did. And she brought someone on board to help her run the company because she felt this person was very talented. And it was kind of like Steve Jobs back in the day when he brought John Scully to help him run Apple, and just like Steve Jobs and John Scully at the beginning, everybody got along and it was great and they were moving forward. But after a while, they stopped seeing eye to eye. And just like Steve Jobs, she was pushed out of her own company. You know what I mean? And she was floundering for about 18 months. And she was introduced to us. And we really saw she was floundering and she needed a community of people. And we brought her into the community and we loved her and we showered her with love. We showed her how to get her message dialed in. We showed her how to get her ideal target market situated. And we lit a fire under her to get out there and start to talk to people, right? Because that's what you got to do. You got to connect with people. So she started to do that. And she was working with entrepreneurs who owned $10 million plus companies and had burnt out. And her job was to help them reverse the burnout. Pretty good niche, right? In her first month, she did $10,000. In her second month, she did $12,000. In her third month, she did $18,000. But in her fourth month, she did $62,200 in profit. As an independent executive coach, that was pretty great. So she lives in Ottawa. I live in Toronto. It's about a 5-hour drive, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a son. I have two sons, but my oldest boy plays soccer, or the real football, as I call it, because it's actually played with your feet. And he was 12 at the time. He had a tournament in Ottawa. And she had a son, same age as my son. So I called her up and I said, hey, how would you like to meet me and my son? Come watch a game with me, and we'll all have lunch. She said, that sounds great. So we all did that. And everybody had a great time. And then we drove back home. And a few weeks later, we had our branded thought leader immersion workshop. This is where we teach people how to add 1 to 2 zeros to their income while working 10 to 20 hours less per week as a thought leader. And we come to the section of the program where we did our famous upsell, where we upsold people into a full year-long mastermind educational program. Again, all about adding 1 to 2 zeros to their monthly income. And the way I do it, I don't go on and on. I let my people talk. So I just say, who'd like to share their experience? So that's what I did. I said, who'd like to share their experience? And before I could pick anybody, she bounded up on stage and said, me. I'm like, okay, no problem. And then she took one look around the room, Bethany, and she started to cry. I mean, bawl. And like any red-blooded masculine man faced with a crying woman, I panicked. What did I do wrong? Why is she crying? And she turned to me and she said, and I was calm on the exterior, of course. And she turned to me and she said, Nicky, you didn't know this, but when you and your little son came to see me and my little son in Ottawa, my little son, in that excited way little boys do, said, Mommy, who are we going to go meet? And I said to him, oh, sweetheart, we're going to go meet Nicky Billou and his son. And then she said, oh, my sweet little boy got very serious and very quiet. And he said, oh, are we going to go meet the man who saved our family?
Wow.
And I don't cry in public. I'm an old school masculine man. I cried, unashamed tears. We hugged. And in between her tears, she said to me, you did not know this, Nicky, but When I came to see you, the bank was after foreclosing our home. I had not paid our mortgage in months. And my husband and I, we were fighting every single day, like cats and dogs, in front of our 3 small children under the age of 12. It looked like we were going to break up and I was going to lose my precious, precious family. You literally helped us save our family. And I went, wow. And
That's
this
why
taught
you do
me
what
something.
you do. Yeah.
This taught me something. First of all, you don't know what people are dealing with. You just don't. They're not comfortable sharing things with you.
Right.
And secondly, I ask God every day to put someone like her in my path that needs help so I have the opportunity to be of service. That's all I want, is I want to help good people who need help. I'm not necessarily looking to make the rich richer because I know how to do that, but that doesn't move me as much as helping somebody who needs to save their family. And that's that.
So if people want to connect with you, where can they go?
Best place to go is there's a link, ecircleacademy.com/appointment, or they can just go to the website, ecircleacademy.com, and there's a button there that says book a call. That's the best place to do it.
Okay. Well, I can put that link down below here and on the YouTube, on the podcast, and then I'll put it also on a YouTube channel. So if people are listening or watching this episode, they can go click on that link and connect with Nicky Billou. Thank you, Nicky. This was amazing. We are kindred spirits. I can tell in the marketing world, we could probably sit and have a coffee for about 6 hours.
I agree. It'd be great.
Thank you.